You're Indian. Fix my laptop. Go back to your call center. Indians need to go take a shower. What do you feel about these words? Do you feel amused, confused, or are you wondering why an Indian Australian like me is making these jokes? Well, these insults disguised as jokes are made every day around our community. So why don't I say a few myself? After all, it's just a joke. They are just words, and ultimately, it's fair game in our society where banter is the crux of Australian culture, right? In Australia, racist humour often thrives under the excuse of it's just a joke and the guise of free speech. According to Reddit, Australian user Logically Smart finds this dark humour to be acceptable, with its moral incorrectness seen as a form of free expression. And while yes, a joke itself doesn't harm anyone, the issue isn't just the joke. It's the deep-rooted prejudice it exposes, revealing itself most strongly in the 2025 anti-immigration rallies, with neo-Nazis being allowed to take stage. It's the infection of our politics with racist ideology, like Senator Pauline Hanson calling for Senator Marine Faruqi to go back to Pakistan. That is the issue. That jokes allow us to normalize the prejudice already breeding rapidly in our country. So, let me ask you, do you really think that racism is just a joke? Before we explore the societal implications of our racist humor, it's important to note how it actually gets spread. Scientifically, when we make others laugh, our brain releases a chemical called dopamine, the reward chemical. It makes us feel good and validates what we do. But an unfortunate aspect of human nature is that this validation functions like a drug. When we laugh at a racist joke, we provide that validation and people become hooked. But what about silence? You might think that staying silent robs racist humor of the laughter it thrives on, but it doesn't. Silence tells the brain that nothing wrong has happened. It signals that the joke is harmless, that no boundary was crossed, and that the person telling it has permission to continue. This is where the bystander becomes part of the problem. Because when you hear a racist joke, recognize it and choose to stay quiet, you're not stopping the cycle, you're completing it. You're giving the same validation just without the sound of laughter. The Australian Human Rights Commission makes it clear. When bystanders stay silent, it sends the message that racism is acceptable. So, how have we, as the great multicultural nation of Australia, come to the point where racism freely exists under the guise of banter? I ask myself this, especially after Boxing Day 2024, during day 4 of the test match between India and Australia, where Australia fans were seen chanting, "Where's your visa?" to the Indian supporters in the crowd. Fans that included Indian and Australian citizens and residents singled out as foreigners simply because of their skin colour and the country they support in sport. Unfortunately, incidents like these reveal a deeply unnerving pattern. Australia, a land built by immigrants, has always loathed newcomers. The historic example is the White Australia policy, designed to limit non-British migration. As psychologist Kane Grigg notes, Italians and Greeks were among those targeted, facing widespread discrimination. After World War II, when migration became essential and restrictions eased, the slur, WOG, emerged, fueling racist humour against Mediterranean Europeans seen not fully white. Eventually, Australians moved past that era, with Italians and Greeks becoming celebrated community members, such as Queensland Premier's David Crisafulli. Yet, the pattern never truly disappeared, did it? As migration shifted, so did the punchlines. Italians and Greeks faded from the focus, replaced by Indians and South Asians. The jokes evolved, but the prejudice driving them stayed the same. Beneath the laughter lingered the same old message. We will tolerate you working here, studying here, paying taxes here, but you will never be fully Australian. In spite of this, many say that a solution already exists, that laughter can be used to attack racist humour rather than encourage it in society. According to Stuart Miller, a PhD psychologist, a common defense mechanism of marginalized groups is self-deprecation, making jokes about themselves. This is meant to subvert the racist connotations of humor by shifting its use from the perpetrators to the victims for shared laughter. The effectiveness of this subversion, however, varied in the study conducted, demonstrating that the attitudes of those who laughed dictated the impact of the humor. Dave Chappelle, an African-American comedian, once performed a skit dressed as a pixie in blackface as part of his show, Chappelle's Show. It was meant to reclaim the stereotypes the American public made about African Americans, like eating fried chicken, and remove their racist connotations. Yet, in a later interview, he said that that skit was the main reason he walked out on a $50 million deal to continue the show. The people he meant to reclaim these stereotypes from did not laugh with him, they laughed at him. People still laughed without thought, and people still laughed with prejudice. The issue is that when we repurpose the weapon of racist humor and aim it at ourselves, it doesn't stop others from aiming it as well. So, what can we do? How can we combat this? After all, we can't stop people from saying what they want. But I believe there is a two-part solution. Part 1, awareness. It is often said that ignorance is bliss, but in the case of racist humor, ignorance is what fuels discrimination. How many of you have said the phrase, "I didn't mean any harm, I didn't mean anything by it, don't take it so seriously"? If you have, then unfortunately, you are being ignorant. Ignorant because you value the cost of your words on intent rather than their impact. By shifting our attention from intent to how racist humor exploits communities, we center victims, not perpetrators, to drive real change for those affected. Part 2, that you and I can start doing from today, is to speak up. I acknowledge that it can be difficult to do this, as we are often under the pressure of hurting our relationships with friends, family, or close associates. But I beg the question, how can we expect this nation to truly be multicultural if we remain stagnant in our stance against racism? BMC Public Health supported the efficacy of bystander responses, where when encouraged in schools, students reduced interpersonal racism and had an increased commitment to anti-racism. So, don't be the bystander that watches as Australians succumb to the racist prejudices of our past. Be an upstander that is vocal, that doesn't spread prejudice for a reaction, and one that truly fights for a multicultural Australia. And, as our national anthem says, for those who've come across the seas, we've boundless plains to share. With courage, let us all combine to advance Australia fair.